Okay, we have our smooth muscle slide. Wiping it off. Yeah. Nice and clean. You can see that we have, whoops, just one strip. Right there. Alright. We're going to put our stage down, low setting. Pop up those stage clips, pull so the red's in the light. I'm going to crank my light up on my rheostat. Alright, turn on my camera. Camera A. Cooking away. Let's look at it. Bring it up. No, too far. Very much too far. Oh, there it was. There it is. Boom. Beautiful. Well, what have they done to us here? Very interesting. So here we have more than just the smooth muscle. We have lots of layers. We actually have a slice of an organ here. So you can see this, all these folds that are through here. Right? You can see just below the folds you have some muscle tissue. This looks like a wall of intestine. Oops, that's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. So we're going to focus on those top two straight layers that go across. Kind of nice focus. Alright, we're going from our 4x. Poof. We're our 10x. So 10x objective, 10x ocular, so 100 times magnification. Swoop. Right. Yep, that's what we're looking at. So we're looking at smooth muscle that goes in 2 layers. We're looking at some small intestine here, kids. I don't mean to offend anybody by saying kids. Super microscope sleuths. Okay. So if we look at notes over here to the side, you can see smooth muscle. It's kind of like squashed cells. They're pointy at the tip here, they get a little fatter, and then they come back to a point. Pointy at the tip here, get a little fatter, come back to a point. So when they contract, they actually kind of ball up. Those 2 pointy tips, the tip here and tip here, pull closer together, and that's how they contract. You see a lot of gap in here. In the microscope image that you have, you're not going to see a lot of that gap. You're going to see them looking like they're holding hands. So here's a link, you can kind of see the shape that we're talking about. Here's a layer where they're coming at you. So it's kind of like when we talked about the smooth or the skeletal muscle coming at you. Like this, you're only seeing these tips, right? The top layer, you're seeing them touching and overlapping. So let's go one more and see what we can find. We're going to go up to the 40. 400 total magnification. Oh, there it was. That was right on it already. See how we're at the top. That's what I want. In fact, this should be right where I want. Let's focus. Oh, all right. So what I'm seeing is right along here. is my side view of those muscle cells. On here, they're coming out like I'm looking at the fingertips of the muscle cells. So if I were to doodle this layer, I'd have my circle, I have the top that comes along like this. Boy, I had some nuclei and lost them. See if I can move along. Oops. Oops, too far. Oh. I'm looking at the folds of the small intestine. So all these folded areas that were down here, where they go down to the tip, around, and back up, whoops, up again, that. What it's doing is increasing surface area so I can absorb nutrients better. We'll talk about that when we get to the GI tract, which we have lots of really cool slides for GI tract. And now I know for sure that we have this one for GI tract for small intestine too. Losing it. All right, we're back. We're going to bring it down because I want to see that. Okay, so when I'm drawing this, it's not going to be perfect. I have to improvise. I'm going to find some cells. I can see some nuclei up here. Sliced a lot of nuclei out. It's a little bit of different depth. Okay. So I can see some faded ones. Like there's a flat one. Oops. There was like 1, 2, 3. When I say the 1, 2, 3, I'm saying here are a couple flat ones. Here's the 1, 2, 3. All right. So I've been drawing those. In reality, what's happening is that these have these cell bodies. And I improvise these lines. And then I have a layer here. And what I'm seeing are like straight on cells. So they may have a body that's more like this. But again, that's because I'm looking towards the fingers like that. So the top layer is going this way with my fingers. The bottom layer is going this way with my fingers, but they're both smooth muscle because your GI tract has 2 layers of smooth muscle going along it. One that goes lengthwise to push food down, and the other one that goes around to squeeze food. We'll talk about that in the GI tract. So how do I know that this is the small intestine? It's not like the esophagus or the stomach or the large intestine, because of the way those bumps are. In your esophagus, it's pretty smooth so that you can bring down food quickly and easily. You don't have big ridges like that. Okay? In your stomach, you have 3 layers of muscle because it's an exception of the rule, and I only see 2, so it can't be the stomach, and those bends are pretty intense. The third layer is going to, or the third section is the small intestine, and that has those finger-like projections. When you get to the large intestine, those finger-like projections are really kind of just nubs, barely anything. And that's how I know where we are. Right, so I have smooth muscle going in this direction, and this one, the smooth muscle is coming out at me. Okay. Next, tissue. So we only have one left. We've done epithelial, nervous, muscle. What's left? Up here on the top, epithelial, covering, nervous for long distance communication, muscle for contraction, and the last one is connective, and guess what it does? It connects everything else. In fact, everything else is connective. If it doesn't fall into these three specific groups, it's got to be connective tissue. Blood, does it cover things? I mean, if you pour it on, but I mean, is it connective, like makes a sheet-like covering? No. Nervous tissue, does blood send long-distance electrical communications? No. Does blood contract? No. So it's got to be in connective. How about bone? Does bone form a sheet-like covering? Not typically. You might be thinking the skull, but not typically. Okay. Long-distance communication? Nope. Bone doesn't do that. How about, does it contract? No. Bone stays by itself. Muscles move bones. Right? So it has to be connective. Fat tissue? Does it connect everything else? No. Sorry, is it a sheet-like covering? No. In fact, if you take fat, you can just grab pieces of it. It's not a protective sheet. Your skin, you can pull on that. But the fat underneath, if I got in there, I could actually pull pieces of fat right out. Liposuction is an example. And does it contract? Fat doesn't contract. Otherwise, man, if fat contracted, that'd be super muscular, right? So it's connective tissue. Boom. Connective tissue. Oops, I didn't flip on your screen. There we go. And you see down there on the bottom things like adipose, which is the fancy word for fat, bones, blood cells, cartilage, I skipped right over, but again, your ear to give it shape, and your nose to give it shape. It's wiggly, kind of firm, but wiggly, cartilage. All right, there are two types, or two categories of special connective tissue. So it's not blood, fat, bone, or cartilage. It's a special connective tissue that's called loose connective tissue or dense connective tissue. And we can actually make it more than that. We can say it's loose regular or loose irregular, but we're going to look at those. So, what's in connective tissue? Connective tissue has a jelly that holds it together. Just like plasma is the fluid that holds the blood together, you have this jelly-like material that's called the matrix that has all these little cells, you can see up here, floating in it. Fat cells, melanocytes, what we saw before, mast cells, which is a protective cell. You have things called fibroblasts that make fibers. You have macrophage, which you saw with the immune system. It goes around eating other things. You have blood vessels that run through it. It's really, I always think of my mom's Jell-O. My mom likes to make Jell-O with fruit in it. But I think, what if I put other stuff in it? So if I had this Jell-O, this matrix, and I put grapes in it to represent cells, and then I put things like spaghetti noodles to represent the fibers that this fibroblast makes. Blast, by the way, means maker. Fibro means fiber, so a fibroblast is a maker of fibers. Clever. But if I had this Jell-O and it has stringy spaghettis, had little grapes in it, let's say I had green grapes for one kind of cell, purple grapes for another kind of cell, red grapes for another type of cell, and I just put all these different things in the Jell-O and fixed it, I'd have a connective tissue. It's all held together. Right? Lots of types of cells all held together to protect you or to connect things, right? So let's look at yours. Number 8 is your dense connective tissue. Make sure you pulled out your dog slide. Smooth muscle. Number 13. Yeah, 13. We're looking for number 8, the connective tissue. Dandelion fuzz, that's the wrong. There we go. Connective tissue. Dense connective tissue. Wipe it off. So we have to wipe every slide off now. It's just better to do that anyway. It's like changing the dryer lint, right? It's just better to remember to do it every time when you start. My mom always changes the lint filter every time that she takes laundry out. I'm exactly the opposite. I always make sure that it's clean before I put it in, because if I wasn't the last one to do the laundry like my mom, if I came over to my mom's house and she went to do laundry not knowing that, she wouldn't check the filter. I check before I use. Public service announcement, check the filter. House is burnt down because of that. Okay, stage is all the way down. I'm on my red objective. Click. I have my connective tissue in my sights. Turning on my camera. Boop. Boop. Ooh, I was so close. All right, let's just bring that down a little bit further. Let's clean it up. I might have something on my lens. Okay, let's zoom in on that. Just a little blurry. There we go. Actually, this is a really good example of dense connective tissue. So dense means that the fibers are really close. It has those fibers like we talked about, which are collagen. So if you hear about tearing a tendon or a ligament, they say that you're toward the collagen. The collagen holds it in place. It's like cables, like firm wires to give strength. Collagen in your skin helps your skin stay strong and not rip and tear. As we get older, our collagen gets saggier and it doesn't hold as firmly, and so we get saggier skin. It's just a natural thing. Even by your 30s and 40s, you start having a little bit of saggy skin. But these dense fibers are all collagen. Okay. You have other fibers. You have elastic fibers, are an example. Just like your elastic waistband on your underpants, you stretch it, you let go of it, it snaps back. So elastic fibers give you that snapback ability. I pull my skin up and I let go, boom, it snaps back. I can't see where I pulled it up. My grandma did that to me one time, it freaked me out. She went, oh, let go of it, and it kind of stayed up a little bit and slowly sank down because her elastic fibers and her connective tissue didn't snap it back, right? I have a lot of strong collagen that makes it hard to pull. She could really stretch hers, right? When she let go, I snap back because I have good elastic. She did not. All right, let's zoom in and look a little bit closer. I'm going to go to that 10x times 10. It's 100 times total magnification. Wow, that's actually even better. Look at those fibers. So I can, I say look at it and it disappears. Perfect. Tick, tick. Right. So I can see the fibers. See that pattern? Going across, boom, boom, boom. Right? So I can see those strong bold lines, but I can see the same pattern even in these areas. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer. We'll go up to the next objective. Love it. See if you can find something like that on yours. See those fibers and how they run together in the same direction? Excellent. This is perfect. I mean, if I could get just a little more clarity, it'd be perfect, but okay. So if I were to draw these fibers, excuse me. Here's my dense. This is under 400x total. Oops. Just dot magnification. I can see the fibers are going kind of real faint and dark. Real faint. Right, maybe not my best artwork, but it's really not about the artwork. It's about knowing. And you can see all the thin fibers go right along with that same pattern. They're all going the same direction. Okay? So technically, this would be dense connective tissue, but it would also be called dense regular because all the fibers are going in the same direction in the same plane. Irregular would be all packed tight the way they are. There's no gap in between. My jello matrix is filling the whole thing. So they're real tight. Then it's irregular. I'd have some fibers that come out towards me and some that go sideways, and it would be a little bit different. But that's irregular, but they're still so tight, I don't see any air in there. They're dense, right? Let's switch it over and look at loose. So number 28, bring my stage down, flip back my scanning. Looking for number 28, 28's a gamble. I win. All right, wipe it off. Having a little bit of alcohol, 70% here, is good. Sometimes when you're cleaning this, it's nice to just, after you've used them a couple times, because I can still see a little bit of a smear. I have a damp alcohol one right here. Yeah, that cleans really well. Now I'm going to dry it off. Let the rest of the air dry. Look how perfectly clear that is. Huh? Slide cover. Shoop. Okay. Loose connective tissue sectioned. Pulling in, pop it in the middle of the light. I'm going to turn on my scope. Boop. Boop. And go. Did I get some? Don't know. Let's bring it up. It looks like it did right there. Just got the tip of it. Alright. Slide it into view. Oh yeah, that's a good example. That actually looks almost like a picture out of a textbook. That's perfect. So see how the fibers, let's go a little closer. Do you see how the fibers are not super tight together? They almost look like hairs, So you can see these bundles that come up and over. You can see these that go straight away. You can see a lot of space in between these fibers. They're loose. They're all really loose. It's like if you took a piece of yarn. So if you took a piece of yarn and you started twisting the end, it frays and comes out. That's what this looks like. It looks like frayed threads. So if we would draw it, circle, you can see, actually let's get closer. I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm going to flip this over to the next objective. I'm at 10x, 100. Wow. I don't even want to go closer. This is perfect. So this is one of those examples where I don't need to go to the strongest magnification, because I can see these fibers, and to me this is actually kind of fun because I can just quick jot my notes down. Sorry, my artistic notes. Not have to be perfect. See how I have kind of the dark region here? I can see some nuclei in there. See that nucleus? Another nucleus right around here. I've got this little branch that comes up and over like that, right? And you get used to knowing the fibers. The springy type fibers are elastic. The thick, dense ones are collagen. And there's another one that's kind of wiry and weird called reticular. Right? I got this strange pattern that's like, yeah, like that. Looks like a harp in there. And I have my regular branch. I have all these random loose fibers. Some kind of somebody going in a U over here. I missed my picture. I hope you're drawing too. You don't draw mine. I mean, you can if you want, but it's funner to draw your own. So you start hunting for these things. Get a nice, decent image. can see all of my little nuclei spread all over the place. So up here. Yep. You can see a little nucleus there. A little nucleus up here where it kind of branches off. Get that nucleus. Right. This is loose. Also at, oops, actually not. This one's only at 100x. Nice. Yellow, that's 10x to x. 10x times 10x equals 100 total magnification. Loose connective tissue. And this is actually loose regular, because all the fibers are going in the same direction. Again, I don't see any fibers that are really coming out towards me. They just look like they're shredded apart a little bit. So that's connective tissue. You have two major categories, which we call the proper, connective tissue proper, which would be loose connective and dense connective. We describe how they're aligned by saying that they're regular or irregular. Both of these were regular. We looked at some of the cells that are in there. You can have things like fibroblasts, which make fibers, right? Blast means maker, fibro is fibers. The matrix we call ground substance. It's the jello. So I usually write jello in. I didn't this time. Okay. And you'll see the same things when you look at these other tissues too. So if I were to look at like this cartilage, I would see my individual cells in here. I wouldn't see a lot of fibers, but I would see this jelly-like material, right? That's connecting it all. That's my matrix. When I look at bone, I can see here's an individual cell, individual cell. I can see all these little connectors, but the filler in here is the matrix again. So I see the same patterns. This is actually pancreatic tissue. I can see some fat cells along here. I can see some dense, yeah, these are all regular. I can see these dense tissues here coming straight out at me. They're regular. So before, when you drew your drawing, you saw them going sideways, but if they're coming out at you, they look like this. Just little bundles or clusters. And then even up here, I can see some dense regular tissue going around. So that's connective tissue. Let's move on to our last category. So we did our four. We had, what was the first one? Epithelium, which is a protective sheet covering. Nervous tissue, long distance electrical communication. Third one was muscle for contraction, to move things. And then the last one is everything else, which we called our connective tissue. All right, let's talk about organs.